Right, good morning, welcome back. Now I'm in the process of repainting my Heritage Softail a whole new colour scheme, and in the last video I took the two fenders out. Now that in its own was just over 4 hours work to get them out the bike, get all the furniture stripped off them so they're ready to be repaired, have some welding work done and then prepped and then painted. There's a whole heap of work in those, but the fuel tank on the other hand, well that's going to get painted as well, but it's immaculate at this point. So what I'm going to do instead of any repair work, it doesn't need any of that, just needs scuffing down and then painting. So I want to get it off the bike immaculate, undamaged and with the best care possible so that all it does effectively need is just that scuff up and paint and not any repairs due to a clumsy removal. So today, removing the tank from your Heritage Softail. Let's go. Right, now with the majority of the fuel drained out of the tank, the next thing I want to do is remove the console. And thankfully, due to the simplicity of Harley Davidson's, it's connected to the tank by this one single bolt. Just take that out and lift it off. And with all 4 plugs removed and the little trip button taken out, you can just take this, put it on the bench. Right, I think I've said this in the past, with all these little fiddly bits and pieces, screws, washers, caps, odds and ends, things that you take off, rather than putting them in a safe place where you know what's going to happen, they're going to vanish into a time warp, put them back where they came from, screw them back on in their original place. Then when you come to reinstall everything, you know exactly where they are and where they go. Also, and interestingly, all these 4 plugs that you take out, they're completely unique and different from each other. Each one of them only fits in one hole, which is handy because when it comes to putting it all back together, you can't get it wrong. Let's tuck that over there, out of the way, done. Next, there's a permanent vent over here on the front of the fuel tank. It's got a little rubber hose on it. It's not glued on or clipped on or anything, it's just shoved into place. So, to remove it, just give it a wiggle, pull it off. Right, now here, underneath the left-hand side of the tank, there are 2 things to disconnect. The electrical power supply to this fuel gauge and the fuel supply to the fuel injection. To disconnect the power supply to this fuel gauge, there's a little clip, first of all, holding the wire out the way. Just get your finger and bend that down very slightly and then pull the wire out, and then you can feed out some slack, and there's the plug. And it's a simple case of just unplugging that, press at the top and pull it out. Job's a good one. Well, at this point, if you're following your Harley Davidson manual on how to disconnect your fuel, it will tell you a big old drama about running the system dry for your safety. It involves running the engine with certain things disconnected and whatever. Have fun with that. Enjoy. I'll leave you to that. Personally, I've never done it, and I know a fair few technicians have said exactly the same. You don't need to do it. It's a spring-loaded ball valve in there. You pull a collar back and you pull the hose out. Ever so easy. You'll get a little dribble of fuel, and it doesn't even shoot out. It just dribbles out, and about a teaspoon. So put a cloth in place, use a little bit of PPE and some common sense, you'll be fine. And once again, as I explained, cloth in place, pull up the collar, pull down the hose. There. A little dribble, safe as you like. Right, now at this point, normally there's two fasteners, one back, one front. You take them out, you lift the tank off. But these particular Softails have got this wonderfully clever link pipe that runs under the frame rail. Yes, it's a hose that goes from the left to the right cheek of the tank to balance the fuel level. And going under the frame rail means you can't take the tank off with it in place. You have to remove it, and there's no tap or shut off valve or spring-loaded ball valve like the fuel injection or anything. It's just there with a Jubilee clippy thing on it. So when you cut that, you take the hose off, whatever's left in your tank is pouring out. Now there's a load of ways to do this. If you watch a dozen videos, they'll tell you a dozen different methods, but here's two of them. If you're not going to use the hose again and it's going to just go in the bin, what about clamping it either side and then chopping the hose in the middle? Easy. And then just chuck the hose away and put a new one on. Simple. But if you want to reuse the hose, there's a great little method that actually works quite well. Drain out the tank, as I've done, as much as you possibly can, so there's nothing in there more than a residue. Then put the bike on the side stand. With it leaning to the left, any residue is going to go through that hose to the left-hand cheek of the tank, leaving the right-hand cheek of the tank bone dry empty. And then take this end of the hose off the tank. Now in theory, nothing will come out this right hand side of the tank because it's all over in the left. Then quick as a flash, take an 8mm bolt, wedge it in the end of the hose, take a little Jubilee clip and clamp it on the end. Then you've sealed up the end of the hose, and you shouldn't have lost any more than a dribble, just like the fuel hose. And then you can stand the bike upright and lift the tank off. And with these little crush clips, just stick a little screwdriver in and lever them open. There, clip out of the way. Ready with a bolt. Straight in the end. Do up the clip. And there. Zero spillage. Job done. Right, now with everything disconnected, including the infamous link pipe, we can just take out the rear bolt and the front slide bolt and lift the tank off. And damn, look at the state of that rear bolt. That is so chewed, I can't tell whether it's an Allen bolt or a Torx bolt. It's got a slot cut across it. Looks like someone's tried to undo it with an axe. It's absolutely mullered. I think we'll be replacing that. Right, T40. It's in, but it's horrible. Let's see if it grips. Nine sixteenths. There she is. And that is pretty much all there is to it. And we're somewhere prepared, safe to park the tank. We just lift up the back, wiggle it backwards slightly, and lift it off the bike. Now at this point, if you've taken a tank off the bike for access to something underneath it, then it's fine to sit here safely on a blanket until you're ready. You can pick it back up, put it back on the bike and reverse everything you've just done for reinstallation. But in my case, I'm painting the tank. So apart from the rubber hose that's got to be removed off the other side, there's one more component to remove, and that's the fuel gauge. And to remove it, it's just clipped into its hole. So just give it a gentle lift upwards and it pops out of place. And as you can see, it's wired right through the fuel tank. So just feed the wire up from underneath and you can literally lift it out. Except it's got a tiny little hole that it's wired through and you've got a big fat plug on the end. Now obviously the easiest way to deal with that is just de-pin the plug, take it off and then slide the wires out through the top. Simple. But I'm going to go nowhere near this tank in terms of preparing it for a couple of weeks because I've got at least 2 weeks work to do preparing those mudguards. They are in an absolutely dreadful state. As you can see, they'll need to be completely stripped back to bare metal to see if any more rust is lurking under the paint. The rust itself isn't actually as bad as it looks. Neither of the mudguards are perforated, it's actually only surface rust. But it will need stripping off completely with a flap disc and then treating so that it doesn't come back. They also need some welding, not because they need it, but because all the chromeware that fits onto those mudguards is not going back on. They're going to be completely de-chromed and de-badged. So all the holes that all that stuff fits through, they're going to get permanently welded up. And on one of them, there's a small plate needed to cover a big hole where wiring would have gone through. So join us in the next one. We'll strip the paint off them and start dealing with all that rust. I'll see you next time.